Okay, so if you want to follow along in your book, I am looking at page 161. And when you go to 161, you will see your front bodice piece as well as your back bodice piece. You're going to find both of them there, and they'll have a whole bunch of other lines drawn on them. Well, I'm going to transfer all of those lines on to this right here. That way you can see where they go, and I can talk about them a little bit better. And then in your book, I might write the information on my pattern here as well, but sometimes it can get confusing. So the first one that I'm going to do actually is number 2. Let me start with number 1 actually. So we'll just go through the numbers. So number 1, the first contouring line that we care about is coming from the neckline and points at the bust point. And there's just a straight line drawn between the two. And now I'm going to give you a number. On a full size pattern, so write the full size number on your book or make a note of it on your pattern that this is for the full size, and then you'll just have to remember to divide it in half when you do this in half size. So I'm going to measure over, on a full size pattern, the distance from the line along the radius of the bust. I'm going to come towards center front 1/4 of an inch on a full size pattern. Because this is half size, I'm coming over here 1/8 of an inch. But on a full size pattern, the distance from here to here will be 1/4 of an inch. And you're going to connect that point up to the point on the neck, as well as to the bust point. So this is 1/4 of an inch in a full size pattern. The next one that you're going to do, you'll notice it comes from the shoulder to the bust point. Straight line, and you're still going to come towards center front. And on a full size pattern, this would be 1/2 an inch. You would come 1/2 an inch away from where the line intersects the bust radius. You'd come 1/2 an inch towards center front on a full size pattern. So on my half size pattern here, I'm only going to be coming over here 1/4 of an inch to maintain the size. But 1/2 an inch is what you want to remember for when you're doing a full size pattern. And then you're going to do the same thing. Connect the new point on the bust radius to the shoulder point and down to the bust point. Number 3 is basically at that notch on the armhole. And this is specifically needed for when we're doing strapless stuff. So I'm going to draw a line from the notch to the bust point, and then for a full size pattern, you're going to come down towards the waist 1/4 of an inch. So that's for a full size pattern. For this one that I'm doing here, I'm dividing that in half. So it's 1/8 of an inch. Notice I did not reference the bust radius on this one. This is just a full 1/4 inch on the full pattern from the armhole. 1/8 of an inch on this side one, tiny one, if you want to do it on here. If you just want to mark these on your book so that you don't have to get confused by those lines, you can. I'll leave mine on here just because it's kind of nice to have them on here. The next line that we're going to draw is down here. Number 4 on your book at the bust radius. From each dart leg, you're going to come out 3/8 of an inch. That's at the full size. At a full size, you're coming out 3/8 of an inch. For my half size, I'm only coming out 3/16 of an inch. So 1/8 of an inch plus 1/16. And that happens on both sides. So 3/8 of an inch at full size, 3/16 at this half size. We're going to do that same thing, but this, yeah, this actually points all the way to the bust point. Now, they're showing on page, the page that we're on, what is it? Let's see, 161. On 161, they're showing this dart, the point of the dart extending all the way up to the bust point. So just ignore that fact. If you're transferring this onto your pattern, just ignore that and take the contour straight up to the bust point. Number 5, this is coming directly from center front. So I'm going to square over, and what that means is I'm taking a line that's 90 degrees away from center front, straight over to the bust point. And the full dimension that I'm going to create is, I'm going to divide this number in half, is 3/4 of an inch. So 3/8 of this will come below, 3/8 of it will come above. And that 3/8 is for, that full 3/4 of an inch is for the full size. For the half size, I'm going to come down 3/16 and come up 3/16 for the half size, so that between the two of them it equals 3/8 total. And I'm taking that straight over. I'm ignoring the radius on that one. And the final one is, we're coming all the way back up here to number 6, and this is for if you're going to be using like spaghetti straps, is where this one will show up. So they've got a little dotted line that comes from the notch point down to the edge of the bust radius. And then what we're going to do is, we're just going to take 7/8 of an inch and center 7/8 of an inch on here. So 7/8 is for the full size, which means that I'm going to take 7/16. I'll probably put 3/6. I'm gonna, just because it's intersecting this other one over here, I'm gonna put, and honestly, it doesn't have to center on this. It just has to be, maybe just use that straight line. It just is a general area, so just use the dotted line that you've got going on here till right here, till you get to the bust radius, and then go 7/16 on your small pattern over. Now, the only time that you're really going to use this is you're going to have some pretty really low cut garments if you're going to be entering this realm. So as a general rule, you probably won't even touch this one ever. I have yet to touch this one. The other thing with the 6 is that from this top edge down this line, on a full size pattern, it's 1/8 of an inch. So on this one, it's 1/16 of an inch. So I'm dropping a line down 1/16 of an inch. And this is if your strap, it's going to be more of a strap. So it's going to be something like that. Let me just bring that up there so you can see it a little bit better. So you can go ahead and write all those measurements on here if you want to. I'm not going to say to do it or not, but definitely write those measurements that I just went over. Definitely write them in your book. In fact, I'm kind of a nerd, and I needed this reference, this information at one time where I didn't have access to my book. So I honestly actually keep a picture of this in my phone so that I'm like, oh my goodness, contouring. I need to contour this pattern. Goodness, what is it? Anyhow, I was gone somewhere and I had my family come and find my book and take a picture of it for me, and I've kept that image on my phone ever since then, because sometimes you just gotta know what to contour and when. The next piece that we're gonna look at is the back piece. So number one on the back, well, I guess they're going by 7. First thing to notice is go up to the shoulders again, and they're just taking a line straight from one part of the shoulder. Oh, actually they're not. It's still 1/8 of an inch. It's that same dimension from the front. So on your pattern, it's a 1/16 of an inch down along the dart legs. So at full size, that's 1/8 of an inch, and then it goes over to the point of the shoulder and to high point shoulder. So you've got it, oops, you've got it right there, just like that. On the small pattern, it's 1/16 of an inch down. On your full size, size 8, well, these numbers will work for larger and smaller sizes as well. It's going to be a 1/16 on this little pattern. The next thing that we're going to do is go straight up from the dart point to your horizontal balance line right here. That's where you're going to find this point right here. And you don't have to leave this line here, you just need to find that point up on the horizontal balance line. So we're up here on the horizontal balance line, straight up from the dart point. And then you're going to take that point and you're going to take a line straight down and straight down to the 2 different sides of the legs of the dart. And that's it. There's not any official measurement, any of that. Oh, something that didn't have a number on the front, but it's there, and it's there on the back as well, is along the side seam over here. So on the side seam, you've got along the top, that dimension coming in here that they have is 1/2 an inch, and that's the same dimension on the front as it is on the back. So on this size, it's going to be 1/4 of an inch, but this is going to be for one of those strapless numbers that will use this. That's the only time we're going to use it, is if it's strapless. And that is it. That is the basic numbers that you are going to find for contouring. Now, just a note, these numbers stay the same for all sizes, but they might change depending on cup size. So this is for a B cup. I might have said something a little bit different earlier where I was like, oh, but this is for all sizes, but not different cup sizes.